Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of Not the Girl Next Door. I'm your host, Meg Reynolds, and this week's episode is for my fellow lover girls. I know being a lover girl gets a really bad rap, and as we're still in summer, it's the time for summer flings and summer love and romanticizing those summer situationships. But the thing about being a lover girl is you are incapable of having a situationship, okay? I don't think anybody, like, no situationship I think is truly healthy for anybody. Usually it's one person has commitment issues and some kind of avoidant attachment, and the other one is just lacking boundaries and self-respect. Rocco does not want to be part of the episode today. I got him this like dental chew thing. I have to look up what the brand is. Oh, it's called Dental Wellness. I got it from Amazon and he is addicted to this thing. He wants nothing to do with me. And you guys know when I'm recording a podcast, I swear this isn't sponsored either. Like when I'm recording a podcast, Rocco is stuck in my lap. Are you going to come show the people your new bone that mommy got you? No, he does not give a flying fuck about me right now. As long as he's got this bone, he's silent. He does not care. I actually discovered this bone because we went to the needlepoint store, the Stitching Bell here in Nashville. And the owner, Kelly, her dog Tilly had one, but Tilly wasn't there. And Rocco found it. He was silent. And I was just there stitching away. I hung out with two new girls and made new friends. This is what I'm saying, guys. Like, if you need community, needlepoint is such a great way to do it. This was such a tangent, but like, shout out Kelly from the Stitching Bell for showing me this dog bone because he's obsessed with it. Anyways, so back to the episode. Being a lover girl gets a bad rap. And as I've realized this in my mid and late 20s, is like, I'm incapable of the casual thing. Like, shout out to you guys who can do it. I just get too attached when I'm granting people access to my body in that way. I mean, in any capacity, if I'm spending time with you or whatever, but like, especially sleeping with a man, I get attached. And there's no shame in that. And I think for a long time, us lover girls have been shamed into thinking we're too much, we're too needy, we're too clingy, we expect too much out of somebody. And it's like, actually, we just want to be loved the way that we know how to love others. And I love so fully and deeply when it comes to everybody. If you're important in my life, you know I love you down bad. And if I don't love you, you also know that. And it's a part of myself that I used to be ashamed of and used to try and dull myself down to be more palatable to others. And part of this whole podcast and the journey I've been on with it has been unlearning those behaviors and unlearning those things that I told myself all those years. And that's kind of what today's episode is. It's an ode to my fellow lover girls who just struggle with this piece of themselves, because I think it's a beautiful part of ourselves. And yet we've been, taught that we're too much for so long. The reality is, I think being a lover girl, it requires a depth that most people, I won't want to say are incapable of, but aren't willing to get to, because it requires tapping into parts of yourself that are ugly, and it requires acknowledging the parts of yourself that are difficult to love, and saying they're still worthy of love. Just because it's difficult doesn't mean you're unworthy. And for me, love is a topic that I think of often and I think of very fondly. It's a topic that has fascinated me my entire life. Pretty much all of the books I always read have some sort of love story undertone to it. And I truly do. I love love. I'm fascinated by it. I am fascinated by the way it allows us to connect with others and the way it allows us to share memories and community with people and the moments it allows us to have. I'm fascinated by the things that people will do for the sake of love. I said this a couple episodes back, how I don't think it's love itself that makes us do crazy things. I think it's the feelings that are associated with it, whether it's the fear of not being chosen, the fear of whatever, like it's those emotions that are associated with love that make us do the crazy things. And I've always been a hopeless romantic. All the stories I've written have a love story element to them as well. And even this podcast was born out of a broken heart, and it was born out of my need to confront being a lover girl. And it was a part of myself that I thought was the problem and I thought was the broken piece of me. But I think in actuality, being a lover girl all these years is what has kept me together. And it's what's kept me whole and kept me, sure of myself. And I think it's the piece of me that time and time again has saved me. When I started the podcast, the first episode was called The Relationship That Broke Me. And it was about how the relationship that I had with myself was the thing that broke me. It wasn't a single guy. It wasn't a single event. The thing that broke me at the end of the day was the relationship I had with myself, because I was allowing myself to be disrespected and abused and taken advantage of, taken for granted. And it was those behaviors that I had learned systemically over the years. And, I was taught that being useful and being needed and being leaned on is what love was about. And that the way to be loved by others was to just be whatever they wanted you to be. And I think a lot of my fellow lover girls fall into that trap, but that is just honestly the antithesis of what I think it should mean to be a lover girl. And that's kind of what I wanted to dive into today. I think one of the questions we all ask ourselves at some point in time is, have I ever been in love? How do I know if I've been in love? The first time I thought I was in love, I was 15 years old, but it was the kind of love that just lived in my stomach. It was butterflies that were actually anxiety, that constant need to prove myself, to feel like I was enough, to just keep the relationship. And it was before I was jaded by love, and it was before the reality set in that fairy tales really were just reserved for Disney. And after that relationship, I was a little jaded by love for the first time, and that was my first real relationship, and it was also the first time I was cheated on, but it certainly was not going to be the last. And I hope I will not get cheated on again in my life, but you never know. But the relationship that followed that was the shortest relationship of my life and one of the most traumatic. That was the boyfriend who assaulted me in my bedroom, who said that if I loved him, I would do this for him. And I didn't, not only did I not want to do that, I didn't love him. I knew him for 2 weeks. And after that, I was really scared of men for a while. Didn't want my guy friends to touch me and couldn't understand because I was only 16 at that point when it happened. And now it's 11 years later, and that moment does not define me, but it does make me more cautious in dating. And it's allowed me to pay attention to the behaviors of men more, of men who are ill-intentioned versus men who are genuine. We're going to fast forward to then when I was 17 and I met a boy. And as soon as I met this boy, I told myself, I was like, this is going to be my boyfriend. And he was for 3 years almost. And that was the first time I was truly in love. And we really did love each other fully and deeply for a time. And then the cracks started to reveal themselves because there were a lot of things that I had been through in life that he hadn't been. And that relationship showed me that love is absolutely meant to be, but it doesn't mean it's meant to last. That relationship is the one that showed me that love itself isn't enough, because no matter how much I loved him, it was never going to work. And no matter how much he loved me, he couldn't love me in the way that I needed to be loved. And so after that, I met another boy when I was 21. And that's the boy, that's the boy that the podcast was born out of. I always joke, the two best things I got out of that relationship was this podcast and therapy. So that should tell you how traumatized I was from it. But I always question if I really loved him in that relationship, because that was the most confusing, tumultuous, the second most traumatic. It may take the cake of most traumatic. I don't know. It's kind of a toss up between the two, but that boy was my undoing. And he was my undoing, not because I was already whole and because he broke me, but he was my undoing because he saw the cracks in me. And it was those cracks that he worked his way into to just split me apart and shatter me. And every single wound, every single piece of myself that I hated was mirrored in him and exposed in this relationship. And that relationship, while it was my undoing, it also became the foundation of who I am today. And I think this is the part of being a lover girl that is so beautiful, is that after all of that, I still believe in love. After all of that, I still want to fall in love again. After all of that, I'm still willing to have my heart broken again for the sake of lasting love, the loves that I have seen modeled to me. And no one relationship looks alike. I have seen so many relationships that I thought were healthy crumble under the pressure of one single moment. And I have seen other relationships that I was like, no way that would last, be built up because of the commitment to each other. And I'm not saying that because their love is enough. I'm saying because their compatibility, their desire to make the relationship work is what was enough. Their willingness to hear the other person out, to communicate, all of those things. Today's love is psychological warfare. Love is supposed to be soft and it's supposed to be kind. And our generation has turned it into a nightmare. And the prize is now pride and ego at the expense of another. And I don't like that. And I think you don't like that, especially if you're still listening to this episode at this point. Love is the most sought after thing in this life and in this world. And it gets so overshadowed and overclouded because I think people don't feel safe within themselves. So they don't feel safe letting somebody else in and letting somebody else love them. And that is the piece of being a lover girl that it's not even about being a lover girl. It's like we all need to work on that is, getting to know ourselves so that we can fully love and we can be fully loved, right? Because how can you choose the right relationships for you if you don't even know yourself? Our relationships, they're a reflection of who we are. They're a reflection of our values. I firmly believe we are who we surround ourselves with. So if you don't know who you are, you don't know what you truly like, you can't get to your core values, your why for anything that you do, you're probably going to be choosing the wrong people to surround yourself with. And I don't say that in a way to shame anybody, and I don't say that in a way to blame anybody. It's a really hard and uncomfortable thing to get to know ourselves. And I think a lot of people let their need to be chosen and their desire to be chosen overshadow all of that work that needs to be done. Because we see this nowadays too, like where I think a lot of people care more about the milestone marker of getting married and having a child than building a relationship with a foundation that's going to stand the test of time. And I've seen this so many times of where I look at a girl and I'm like, do you even like your husband? Or did you just want to get married? Like, who is this wedding for? Wedding culture especially is so out of hand. Don't get me wrong. I would love a beautiful wedding. I want to elope in Italy maybe. I don't know. There's a million different types of weddings I want to have. Like one minute it's I want to get married on the beach in Montauk and the next I want to elope in Italy and everyone can fuck off. Like, I have so many wedding ideas, but the groom is just kind of always blurry and out of focus. But with being a lover girl, I think the first piece of learning how to love and be loved is freeing yourself from this idea that you're too much and that you are needing too much out of a partner. I think we've all had a moment in our lives where we just got the feeling that we were not welcome anymore, right? We got this feeling of, I'm annoying them, I'm too much, I am not wanted here. And that's a moment and a feeling that sticks with you through your life. And you're probably going to have that feeling a couple more times. And you've probably have had it a couple times. And that's why you're at the place today where you're trying to dull yourself down and make yourself fit into this box. And the reason for this is like there's these weird invisible boundaries and lines in society where it's like you just cross the line. We're very sensitive to like unspoken rules and cultural structures. And so if you're someone who's perceived as too loud or too annoying, you're kind of crossing those bounds and you're not playing by the rules. And amongst group settings, it makes you stick out and people don't like that. I always think back to, so Alice in Wonderland was my favorite growing up. And it was actually my Sweet 16 theme. And I remember this idea of muchness from it, right? You've got this muchness about you. And the thing about muchness is it reflects internal acceptance. You have accepted who you are. You have accepted your quirks. You have accepted the things that make you weird or not normal. And so your muchness is what makes you stick out. And I think us as lover girls, we have a lot of muchness. And to people who maybe have not done that self-exploration, they haven't accepted themselves, they're not going to like that, right? And I think this is the piece of being a lover girl that is going to like unlock your potential and just unlock new things for you in life, is when you get to that place of acceptance. Because when you look around at all your favorite celebs, artists, influencers, anyone who has some sort of semblance of success that you strive for, the thing about them that you kind of come to realize is they're just fucking weird. They're unapologetic weirdos. And I love it. And it doesn't, I feel like we all have this feeling where like it fires you up and you're like, I want to do that. I know I can do that. And that's part of being a lover girl, is accepting that you come with big emotions. You may be loud. You want the romance and the whimsy of it all. You want your Prince Charming in the way that actually fits reality. And I don't think there's any shame in that. And when you're not accepting yourself and accepting who you are, it does bleed into your physical appearance. It bleeds into, they say that the hips store all your trauma. It really is true. Like, your repression of your inner self does bleed into the external parts of your life. And that's why I'm saying there's no shame in being so loud and big-hearted and full of love and empathetic. Like, these are beautiful traits that require a depth and softness that should be celebrated, in my opinion. I think when it comes time, so for all my lover girls out there, there was a point in time I wasn't dating. I've just recently started dating again, like actually consistently trying to date, because I would get in the cycle where like I would get into a situationship with a guy and like we would go for a good 4 months, and then I would be so anxious after it ended, and I would just be like, fuck this, I'm not dating and I'm taking a break. And it was like this vicious cycle. Well, something has weirdly just clicked for me at the age of 27. And I don't know if it's Saturn return, that frontal lobe development finally stuck, or whatever it is. Like, something has just clicked for me in dating. And I'm recognizing like I am not meant to be loved by everybody. And not everybody should get the honor of being able to love me. And I absolutely fully believe that. And maybe that sounds cocky, maybe that sounds conceited, but I think I know what kind of love I have to give to somebody. And I think whoever I end up with will be lucky to be loved by me. And I hope that their love matches mine, and I will be lucky to be loved by them. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And so it's made dating easier, because I recognize now when somebody is not going to be capable of meeting me at the depth that I would want them to, and they're not compatible with me in that way, and they don't want the same things. But I think love only feels scary when you don't know yourself enough to know what it is you truly want. So many people nowadays say they want a relationship, but they don't actually know what it is they want out of that relationship. Like, when you ask someone what they want in a partner, they say, yeah, I want someone who's kind and funny, or they list certain physical attributes that don't say anything about the quality of life that they would have with this person. They say, I want them to be kind. And then they say, I just want someone who gets me. I just want someone who understands me. It's like, well, what does that mean? Because do you understand yourself? And so if you don't know yourself, you're going to keep getting into the wrong relationships. And part of getting you, and this is the ugly part, is you recognize the parts of yourself that are difficult to love, the parts of yourself that get triggered by certain things, and knowing how you react to fights, what your bad habits are in a relationship. Are you the kind of person that just shuts down and needs space? Are you the kind of person that screams and yells? Like, what it is that are the difficult parts of you to love that aren't the healthiest parts, and letting those be seen in the light, because that is what having a partner who gets you truly means, is they see those flaws and they love those flaws just as much as the good parts of you, quote unquote. And another piece of love too is love is not learning about how little you need. Love is not diminishing how much you ask for from your partner. For so long too, us lover girls are taught that we need too much. And so we shrink ourselves less and less, and we try to be this chill girl who doesn't ask for much just for the sake of being chosen. That no wonder we build resentment. No wonder that we're not happy in our relationships, because we're not actually asking what it is we want and need. I think too, with love, we talk about consistency in relationships, but constancy isn't talked about enough. Because while love isn't unconditional, love should be constant. Constancy, so this is the dictionary definition of constancy. Constancy refers to the quality of being unchanging, steadfast, and reliable. It describes a state of stability and consistency over time, as well as unwavering loyalty, dedication, and fidelity in personal relationships and beliefs. So while consistency is important in the early stages of relationships, that consistency is what builds that constancy. And that's why you have those friends where it could be months since you've seen or spoken to each other, but you're able to pick up right where you left off because you have that trust built up. And so if you struggle in a friendship long term, or even a relationship long term, where you're constantly questioning, you have to ask yourself if that constancy is there. And if it's not, why? Is there a lack of trust? Was trust broken at some point and not rebuilt? Like, constancy is, I think, not talked about enough in relationships. Another piece too of being a lover girl that is not talked about enough is when you're a lover girl who's been through some sort of betrayal trauma, because it really does rewire your brain. And while the traumas that I've been through in relationships, I think are what have actually been the best thing for me, because they've allowed me to learn parts of myself and just actually see the world in a new light that I wouldn't have otherwise had this perspective. There are still certain pieces of me that just will never be the same. It's like when you rip up a piece of paper and you take it back together, you still see the rips in it. And that's not to sit here and say like you're broken and you're damaged goods and you're unworthy of love. It just means that you've been through some shit. But the key to being a lover girl is not getting jaded after those betrayals. And that's where journaling, going to therapy, and like having other forms of love in your life will really save you from that. Because too, I don't think I would have realized how bad I was treated in some of my past relationships had I not talked about. Like, I didn't realize how fucked up some of the things I've been through sound until I'm talking about them out loud and I'm laughing about it. And people are looking at me like, girl, are you okay? Are you all right? And it's true though, like, this is why it's so important too, as a lover girl, to have your friends that you can trust and confide in, because we're not always the best judges of character. Like, I think if you're a lover girl, you like to see the good in people. I know I do. I like to give people a second chance and a third chance. And I just, I've spent so much of my life trying to just be easy to love that I didn't realize that was the thing that was going to keep me heartbroken and keep me getting hurt time and time again, because I don't think it's a good thing to be easy to love. Like, when people describe their relationships, they're like, oh, it's just so easy and effortless. Like, it only feels that way because you've built up the relationship. I don't think being easy to love is actually a good thing. I think if anything, that means you're just probably fawning or performing or you're denying what it is you actually need in the relationship. Like, I don't think being hard to love is a bad thing at all. I think those are the relationships that are formed to withstand the test of time. And I'm literally thinking of some of my friends and their partners who have been through a lot, and, friends in dark places and all these things. And if you're chronically single like me, you can get really down on yourself. Like, I have been single for 5 years now. Like, yes, I've dated. Again, you guys have heard all my dating stories, and it's great content. Don't get me wrong. Anytime I date a guy, I'm like, either I'm going to end up dating this man, or it's going to be potentially great podcast content. But truly, it's hard when you're a lover girl and you're chronically single, because there's that longing feeling. And I've heard all the bad advice, and I've even said it myself of like, just love yourself. You don't need a man, blah, 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 which all of that is true, but it doesn't erase the longing for love. It doesn't erase the desire for partnership. And as we're getting older and as we're seeing our friends settle down and stuff, it gets harder and harder to not want to just settle with the first person that comes your way. But I would encourage you not to do that if it's not from a place of true compatibility, because you have worked so hard on yourself. You worked so hard to love yourself. So don't you think you deserve to wait for a man who's going to love you the way you love yourself? But this is just something that's clicked in my brain recently at 27, is like, yes, I am a lover girl through and through. However, you can be a lover girl and you can be a man hater at the same time. All right. You can be a lover girl and desire partnership and believe in the fairy tales. And you can also recognize a dumbass man who doesn't deserve it. Like there is the two can coexist in your life. But on a serious note, like it is just clicked in my brain for some reason. And I have a peace in dating now, and I'm able to just date from a place of confidence and a date from a place of recognizing I don't need a partner. I would love a partner. And that longing is still there. There are nights where I'm like, it would be really nice if I had someone. It would be really nice if I had a boyfriend to go do this with or to go on a trip with, or looking at my friends who are getting boyfriends, getting engaged, moving in with their partners, doing all those first big milestones and longing for that. There's no shame in that. What becomes the problem is when you start compromising all of your hard work for the sake of settling. And that's just something I refuse to do. Part of being a lover girl too, I think there's a stubbornness that comes with it. Like you just don't give up on people easily. I don't give up on people easily. I'm not someone who quits things. I'm not someone who walks away. I never want someone to feel the way I have felt in relationships in the past, like I'm too much, like I'm a burden, like I am not wanted. I've always just pushed through and convinced myself that it's all going to work out. And there comes a point in a relationship where you've poured so much into it. You're like, it has to work out because I have sacrificed so much of myself for this. But I think in every relationship, there came that point where you just knew it was over. And once you know, you can't unknow. You can't put the genie back in the bottle and you can't put the cat back in the box. It's over. And even then, sometimes you stay if you're a lover girl because you're just not willing to accept that it's over yet. There's always a gap of when you figure it out versus when you actually do something about it. And I think what makes it so hard to walk away from situations when you're someone who is in love is the feeling is still there. It doesn't go away. And that's okay. Like it's fully normal to walk away from people, from places with love still in your heart while also knowing it's no longer right for you and it won't serve the person that you're trying to become. And that's okay. And so like every experience, every person I've ever loved and lost has formed me into the person that I am today. I'm a walking billboard for everything I have ever loved. And I look back on so many of those people so fondly. I know that they serve their purpose in my life. And I just think that this is part of being a lover girl that we all need to work on is our ability to walk away. And part of that too, this is the weirdest piece of dating I've been struggling with recently is like, okay, am I securely attached now or do I just not like this man? Because when you're someone who is so used to the pit in your stomach, the anxiety, the butterflies, the spiraling, the obsessing over them texting you, like, and just being unable, you're planning your future, like all those things. When that noise goes away, you can't help but ask yourself, okay, do I just not like this person then? And I think there is a difference. There is such a difference between just not being interested in somebody and versus, I just am secure in myself, but I know if this connection doesn't work out, it's going to be okay. And I've been having a little bit of that in dating recently because I'm just not feeling the anxiety anymore. And I was living with it for so long that it became part of my being. And so now that it's absent, I'm just like, whoa, where did they go? What do you mean I don't have a pit in my stomach about this man? Like, what? But it's a beautiful thing. And it shows all of the work that I've done is paying off. And it means I am one step closer to falling in love and having my happily ever after. And I'm still going to call it happily ever after, even though there's no such thing. But it is normal. And I think the way to figure out that is to just keep seeing them. And I know that sounds counteractive, right? Like, whatever, like you will know. I always say the way to know if you don't like a man is if you're on the date and you're about to leave, do you want him to kiss you? Do you want to know what that's like? Because I've had a couple dates where I walked away and we're walking in my car and I'm thinking, please don't try and kiss me. Please don't try and kiss me. And I'm like, okay, he's really nice. He's great on paper. I'm just not interested in him. Or it's like, you can't imagine yourself kissing them. I think so much so much from a kiss with someone. And maybe that's me being a hopeless romantic, but I really do think a kiss shows you a lot about your connection with somebody. So being a lover girl isn't your problem. Being a lover girl isn't a flaw. Being a lover girl does not mean you are broken by any means. I think it is one of the most beautiful ways to live. I think it is one of the most beautiful ways to see the world, and it requires a depth that most people are incapable of. My life changed when I stopped searching for love, and instead I started searching for life. I started searching for what was going to give me purpose, for what was going to make me feel whole, for what was going to fill my cup. And eventually, the life that I found showed me the love that I was seeking all along. And it showed me what truly being loved by people meant and how it should feel in my body. And that's why I always say my friendships have raised my standards for a relationship, because my friends they do not hold back, and they love me so fully and deeply. And those friendships too have shown me when a friendship is no longer serving me, and they've shown me when it's time to take my energy back from somebody. And I just don't think I would be the woman I am or have the life that I have if I wasn't somebody who is so full of love and loves people and loves learning about people and loves life. Like, I'm a lover girl. I love love through and through. And it's a topic, like I said, that it just has always fascinated me, this idea of romance. And I think it's really interesting because love stories you see them all throughout history. Romance is just everywhere in history. And I think there's something to be said about that. I really, really do. But that's all for this week's episode of Not the Girl Next Door. Make sure you leave us a 5-star review wherever you're listening. Please subscribe to our Substack, which is now live. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And I will see you guys next week for another episode. Bye for now.